Forgotten Sunrise, Chapter 6, Personal Belongings. Making another stop for food for Ray only made Sunset hungry again, so she made a stop for lunch before returning to the lighthouse with a full cart and full stomach. She had forgotten how good carrot dogs were. It took a half an hour to get everything unloaded and half sorted in the guest bedroom. The first thing she put down wasn't the terrarium, but the heating pad that would keep one section of it warm. With that done, she carefully levitated the empty terrarium up before setting it on top of the desk in front of the window, making sure it would get adequate sunlight throughout the day. Ray was content to curl up on the bed and watch her work. With the tank adequately positioned, Sunset carefully cut the first bag of river pebbles open, lifted it up with her horn, and slowly poured it into the glass terrarium, using her magic to spread them out evenly over the entire surface area, going through a total of 3 bags before she had a satisfactory amount in the tank. The next step was the pond, a large circular container which she put in the front left corner and half buried it in the pebbles, before filling it with clean water. Next, she began to arrange the logs and rocks, some solid to provide elevation, and some hollow to provide shelter and shade. When everything was said and done, she had a decent-looking habitat for her dragon. Perhaps that's what Equestria called any winged lizard nowadays. Who knows how long it had been since they had seen some creature like Spike, a dragon that walked and talked. It wasn't like a small part of her was hoping that Ray would have been able to strike up a conversation after coming through the portal, but that had honestly been shoved to the back of her mind when the very first thing she saw was the state of Twilight's castle.
Alright, I think that'll do it. Wanna see how you like it?
Sunset asked, turning back to the bed where Ray was laying. She lifted a hoof up to the bed and he climbed on. She carried him over to the terrarium and gently set him down onto the tallest log, and he immediately began exploring. Leaving him to his new home, Sunset went back over to her chest. Her gaze immediately listed to the right of it where her guitar case had been set. Grabbing it with her magic, she took a seat on her bed and set it down on her lap before unlatching it and opened it, revealing the Sunburst V-Body electric guitar within. She had left the strap attached, and due to her obvious change in form, she had to take a moment to adjust the strap's length before putting it over her head, over her shoulder, and around her back. Cradling the neck in her left hoof, Sunset frowned for a moment. But just a moment. It wouldn't exactly be learning to play all over again, but unlearning finger positions and replacing them with hooves and magic would take time. She wouldn't be able to hit the ground galloping with her music. But on the other hoof, it would be something to do. If she ever got overwhelmed by taking in this new Equestria, there would always be an opportunity to retreat back to a corner, plug in, sit back, and just play. Well, that is once she found a music shop with a cheap enough amp, and she already owed Sunny nearly 100 bits. After taking a moment to glide her hoof up and down the neck, she lifted the strap off and returned the guitar to the case, closing the top and latching it. Setting that aside next to the desk on which the terrarium sat, Sunset got off of the bed and unlatched the chest. Inside were mostly books, a couple of scrapbooks and 4 yearbooks, including the special one that they had made just for her. She carefully levitated the 4 standard ones over to the empty bookshelf before setting the special one with her gold-plated cutie mark onto the bed. She wanted to start looking at that in a bit. Next up was a recipe book from Applejack.
Compare Apple Family cooking to whatever they got over there,
the farmer had told her. She'd have to look at each of these recipes very carefully, making sure there was nothing in there that called for rather carnivorous ingredients. Next up was a rather fat and packed flexing folder that was rubber banded shut. It contained all the sheet music for all the Rainboom songs. Not just the guitar either. Every single part.
In case you want to form another band when you get some free time. You know, take the Rainboom's interdimensional,
Rainbow had exclaimed. Making sure those were all organized would be another good time killer. But for now, she set them on the bookshelf next to the yearbooks. Next up was a small coffee table book containing countless sketches from Rarity. Some black and white, and others fully colored.
I admit I'm not prepared enough to have you depart with something for your equine form. But perhaps this will help my counterpart design something equally fabulous for you over there.
Rarity had told her proudly. She honestly wasn't sure how much use this would be now, but perhaps there was a good tailor around that could use these as a good template. Next up was a polished oak and gold plaque, her award for reaching 500,000 subscribers on her livestream. She couldn't help but wonder if there was anything similar she could do here, and that Pip would likely be the one to talk about that. Lastly, the last thing they had recovered from Twilight's castle. The first thing that she had left behind upon casting her first teleportation spell in her escape. Her graduation gown and cap. Thankfully, it had not gotten too dirty, and Thunder and Zephyr had been kind enough to fold it and keep it near their campsite when they had returned to their posts. The fabric had adjusted to her equine form, and the cap remained largely the same. She kept both folded, and placed them on top of the dresser in front of the mirror. Closing the lid of the now empty chest, she only had spent a few minutes flipping through the first pages of her yearbook, before her phone began vibrating and tripping an alarm over on its wireless charger on the nightstand. Her eyes widened when she realized that it was the alarm she had set for 5 p.m., to remind her to start to head downtown to meet Sunny at the museum.
Where did the time go today?
She asked herself. Quickly making sure Ray had enough food in his dish, she threw on her saddlebags, put her yearbook inside, and headed out of the room. Then she headed down the hall and out the front door, wondering if she was prepared for getting some more answers. Oh man, she is not prepared for what she's about to see in that museum. Probably gonna be enough tears to fill up a pool, and then Sunny's gonna say,
Hey, this is Sunset Shimmer's Tears! Anyways, let's get on to our super kind donators. Top donators: Cat-gjf, Zar630, Jade Tin Man, Only One Thing, Ceru, Orion, and IronSky. Darkside, Rayden, Narwhals, Blackmoonheart, Pastel Skies, Austin, Rolan, Stuhex, Swordbrother and Mordred, Omicron Lyrae, Will, Chris, Twinkie, Ridezel, Badass Waffle, Shadow Moon, Luigi88, Chancellor Crust, Big Smoke 369, and many more awesome people. Thank you all so much for watching this video, and live life to the fullest.